Have you ever reached a point where it feels like every familiar voice went silent at the same time? 3 missed calls from last month, 7 unread messages you never replied to, a Friday night with no plans, again. If this is your reality right now, don't skip this video, because what feels like abandonment might actually be divine appointment. Your phone went silent not because you're forgettable, but because God is making you unforgettable. I'm going to show you why the loneliest season of your life is often the most important one you'll ever walk through. By the end of this message, you'll understand why God removes people who seemed essential, what He's building in you that required complete isolation, and how to recognize when this season is about to shift. This isn't just inspiration, this is confirmation of what you've been feeling but couldn't explain. Let's begin. Part 1. The signs. God is clearing your circle. Let me describe what you've been experiencing. Sign 1. Conversations became shallow overnight. Remember when you could talk for hours? Now every exchange feels forced, like you're speaking different languages. You haven't changed, they haven't changed, but the spiritual frequency shifted. What used to resonate now creates static. Sign 2. Plans collapse without explanation. You suggest hanging out, they're busy. You try again next week. Something came up. Third time, they just stop responding. No fight, no argument, just distance. Here's what's really happening. God is creating what I call holy friction. He's making it uncomfortable for them to stay and uncomfortable for you to chase. Sign 3. You're misunderstood for no clear reason. People suddenly see you differently. They accuse you of changing. They say you're different now, and you are. But here's the key. They're supposed to misunderstand you right now. Because if they fully understood what God is doing in you, they would fight to stay in your life, and God needs them to let go. Sign 4. You no longer fit where you used to belong. It's not that people rejected you. It's that your spirit outgrew rooms that no longer hold your destiny. The conversations that used to energize you now drain you. The environments that used to feel like home now feel foreign. The groups that used to embrace you now feel suffocating. God is elevating you inwardly before He elevates you outwardly. Sign 5. Opportunities with the wrong people keep collapsing. Plans fall apart. Things don't move forward. Connections fall through. Doors close without warning. You may think, why does everything keep failing? But heaven whispers, because this is not the path I choose for you. But here's what most people don't realize. God doesn't just remove people from your life randomly. What He does next is the most merciful thing He could ever do. Part 2. When God becomes your only option. There's a moment that comes in every chosen person's life. A moment where every backup plan fails, every safety net disappears, every person you would normally call isn't there, and you're left with only God. This doesn't happen by accident. This is divine design. You lose your job, and the friend who said, "I'll help you," goes silent. Your relationship ends, and the family member who promised to be there is suddenly unavailable. You face a crisis, and everyone who said, "Call me anytime," doesn't pick up. God orchestrates this, not to harm you, but to position you. Because as long as you have people to lean on, you'll treat God as a supplement. God is removing the supplements so you finally discover the source. 1. When your strength collapses. There are moments when you try everything. You push, you plan, you fight, you strategize, you hustle, yet nothing works anymore. Your strength reaches its limits. You feel like saying, "God, I can't do this on my own." And God responds, "I never designed you to." Your weakness doesn't offend God. Your breaking point is not a failure. It is the moment where God finally steps into the center. Because strength is not found in pushing harder, it's found in surrender. 2. When your usual comforts stop working. The shows you used to watch no longer distract you. The conversations you used to enjoy no longer heal you. The things that used to numb your pain lose their power. Why? Because God is removing every counterfeit comfort so you can turn to the true comforter. This is spiritual detox. He is pulling you away from everything that soothes you temporarily so He can give you something that anchors you eternally. 3. When people's words stop helping, someone tells you, "It's going to be okay. Stay strong. You'll get through this. Just have faith." But none of it lands. None of it shifts anything. None of it brings relief. Because in certain seasons, God doesn't allow human words to touch the places. He wants to heal Himself. He wants you to hear His voice, not theirs, not the world's, not your own doubts, but His whisper, clearer, deeper, stronger than anything you've ever heard. 4. When God eliminates distractions to create connection, this part is uncomfortable but also beautiful. God will close doors you would never close. He will end situations you would endlessly tolerate. He will separate you from what drains you. He will block what harms you. He will remove what steals your focus, not because God is cruel, but because God is jealous. Jealous in a holy way. He wants your heart back, your mind back, your spirit back, your attention back. He wants to be your first thought, your true comfort, your primary guide, your deepest source of strength. And so he will remove competing voices until his is the only one left. 5. When God is all you have, God becomes all you need. This is the turning point, and every chosen person goes through it. When God becomes your only option, he becomes your healer, counselor, provider, protector, peace, direction, identity, anchor, strength, friend, comfort, answer. And slowly, the fear of being alone dissolves and becomes faith. The loneliness that felt heavy becomes intimacy. The silence that felt painful becomes clarity. The emptiness that felt scary becomes a sanctuary where only God meets you. This is the holy ground where transformation truly begins. And this transformation follows a pattern that every single person God has ever used went through. Once you see this pattern, everything about your isolation will make sense. Part 3, the pattern. Hidden, refined, revealed. Every person God uses greatly, he isolates deeply. Look at the pattern. Moses, 40 years in the desert before he led millions. David, years in caves before he wore the crown. Joseph, prison before the palace. Jesus, 40 days alone in the wilderness before ministry. Paul, 3 years in Arabia before he wrote half the New Testament. The hidden place is not a punishment, it's a training ground. What God does in isolation that he cannot do in crowds. 1. He refines your character. Character isn't built when people applaud, it's built when no one's watching. In isolation, God develops patience without recognition, discipline without accountability, integrity without witnesses, strength without cheerleaders, endurance without applause, humility without an audience. You wake up every day with no job, no plan, no external motivation, but you still pray, you still journal, you still show up. That's character being forged, because God knows that destiny requires a character that can hold the blessing without collapsing under its weight. 2. He detoxes your spirit. You don't realize how many voices shaped your thinking until they're gone. God removes you from toxic narratives. You'll never make it. Limiting beliefs. This is just how life is. Codependent patterns. I need them to be okay. People-pleasing programs. What will they think? Emotional attachment wounds, fear of rejection, unhealthy loyalty, addictive distractions, spiritual contamination. The isolation is spiritual detox. He is cleansing your spirit so your soul can breathe again. 3. He sharpens your discernment. When life is quiet, you notice things. Red flags you missed before. Energy you tolerated that drained you. Patterns you repeated unconsciously. People who only stayed when you served them. Manipulation you didn't recognize. Intentions that were never pure. God is teaching you to feel what's from him and what's not. When you're surrounded by noise, you ignore spiritual signals. You miss red flags. You tolerate what drains you. You ignore what harms you. But in isolation, your spiritual senses sharpen. You recognize unhealthy people faster. You hear God more clearly. You sense danger sooner. You understand your emotions better. You catch deception instantly. You feel what is and isn't from God. This discernment will protect your next season. 4. He reveals your true identity. There's a version of you that people never allowed you to become. Stronger, calmer, more confident, more spiritual, more boundaried, wiser, more peaceful, more aligned. Isolation resurrects the version of you that God designed before the world wounded you. Isolation is not a pause, it is a transition. It is the hallway between who you used to be and who God is calling you to become. In this place, God breaks old mindsets, destroys false identities, heals childhood wounds, rewrites your story, reveals your calling, strengthens your voice, prepares your spirit for elevation. You are not being reduced, you are being rebuilt. The version of you that will exit this season will be stronger, wiser, clearer, and more aligned than any version before. Right now, you might feel like you're in a pause, but this isn't a pause, it's a metamorphosis. What's happening inside you is more important than what's happening around you. Now let me tell you something that almost nobody talks about. Something that will completely change how you see every person who left your life. Because God doesn't remove people just because they're bad. There's a much deeper reason. Part 4, why God removed them. The part no one tells you. This might be the most important part of this entire message. God doesn't remove people because they're evil. He removes them because their presence threatens your destiny. Let me break this down. 1. God heard conversations you never heard. While you trusted them, God heard. The jealousy they hid, the resentment they buried, the doubt they whispered behind your back, the gossip they spread when you weren't around, the criticism disguised as concern, the envy masked as compliments. They smiled in your face, but God heard their heart. So He separated you before their words poisoned your identity. You shared a dream with a friend. They said, "That's great," but God heard them think, "They're not special enough for that." 3 months later, they're gone from your life. That wasn't coincidence. That was divine protection. 2. God saw the future you couldn't see. Some relationships feel harmless now, but God sees what they become later. He sees the betrayal that would break you in 2 years, the manipulation that would cost you a decade, the compromise that would derail your calling, the codependency that would keep you small, the distraction disguised as love, the wrong partnership that would steal years of your life. So God intervenes early. He steps in, interrupts your plans, and reroutes your path, not to hurt you, but to save you from greater pain. 3. They couldn't carry the next version of you. This one hurts, but it's true. Some people were assigned to a season, not a lifetime. They were meant to teach you a lesson, reveal a pattern, show you what you don't want, prepare you for what's next. But they cannot walk where God is taking you. Their calling is different. Their capacity is different. Their season with you is complete. And if they stayed, one of 2 things would happen. 1. You would shrink yourself to keep them comfortable. 2. They would resent you for growing beyond them. So God lovingly, firmly removes them. If they stayed in your life, you would shrink yourself to keep the peace, mute your voice not to offend them, slow down your growth, compromise your purpose, follow their path instead of God's, settle for a life beneath your calling. So God disrupts the connection before it disrupts your destiny. 4. Separation is protection, not punishment. I want you to hear this deeply. God removing someone is not a reflection of your worth. It's a reflection of your value. You are too precious to be surrounded by people who cannot carry your calling. You are too important to be entangled with those who drain your spirit. You are too anointed to be connected to someone who would sabotage your future. So God protects you with divine separations. 5. If the relationship was meant for you, nothing could remove it. If God wanted that person in your life, He would strengthen the connection. He would sustain the communication. He would bring both hearts into alignment. He would open doors instead of closing them. So when God removes, He is making a final decision for your good. What God removes is no longer required for where you're going. What you called abandonment, God calls elevation. What you called rejection, God calls redirection. What you called loss, God calls liberation. Now I know what you're thinking. When does this season end? How long do I have to wait? Let me show you the exact signs that your isolation is about to shift and what happens when God begins to lift you. Part 5, the shift. When God begins to lift you, the shift doesn't come with an announcement. It starts quietly, but once you know the signs, you'll recognize it immediately. Sign 1, peace returns. Not because your circumstances changed, but because your spirit changed. You stop needing explanations. You stop needing closure. You stop needing people to understand. You just rest. Someone who hurt you posts on social media. 6 months ago, that would have triggered you. Now, you scroll past without a second thought. That's when you know the healing is complete. Sign 2, clarity floods in. Suddenly, you see your life with 20/20 vision. You understand why that door closed, why that person left, why that plan failed, why you had to walk alone, why the timing wasn't right, why God said no, why you went through what you went through. And instead of bitterness, you feel gratitude because you finally see God was protecting you the whole time. Sign 3, new people appear. Not random people, aligned people, people who match your energy, respect your boundaries, celebrate your wins, understand your calling, value your presence, speak life, honor your growth, walk with purpose. These are destiny connections, sent by God, not found by accident. Sign 4, Doors open that your effort couldn't. Opportunities appear that you didn't apply for. Conversations happen that you didn't initiate. Breakthroughs occur that you didn't orchestrate. Favor shows up that you didn't earn. Connections form that you didn't force. This is when you realize it was never your hustle. It was never your strategy. It was always God's hand. Because when God opens a door, no one can shut it. Sign 5. You're unrecognizable to your former self. The version of you that entered isolation, needed validation, feared abandonment, craved approval, chased relationships, tolerated disrespect, people-pleased constantly, was easily manipulated, was controlled by fear. The version of you exiting isolation, rooted in God's voice, confident in your worth, secure in your identity, selective with your energy, unbothered by rejection, walks with boundaries, discerns quickly, moves with purpose. You've been rebuilt from the inside out. You're no longer easily shaken. You're no longer controlled by fear. You're no longer manipulated by people. You're no longer defined by loneliness. You're no longer desperate for approval. You have been prepared, protected, positioned, promoted. This is what the isolation was for. Not to break you, but to remake you. Not to isolate you, but to elevate you. Not to punish you, but to prepare you for the life you prayed for. If you're watching this and you're in that season right now, the season where your phone is silent, where your calendar is empty, where you feel like you have no one but God, hear me clearly. You are not behind. You are not forgotten. You are not abandoned. You are not rejected. You are not invisible. You are not too much. You are not enough. You are being prepared for what you asked for, protected from what would harm you, positioned for what's coming next, promoted in the spirit realm before it manifests in the natural. This season will not last forever, but its impact will. Because when you have no one but God, you discover that God is enough. You learn His voice is clearer than any human advice. His presence is stronger than any human comfort. His plans are better than any human strategy. His love is deeper than any human relationship. His timing is more perfect than your rushing. His ways are higher than your understanding. You learn that God is your healer, your counselor, your provider, your protector, your peace, your direction, your identity, your anchor, your strength, your friend, your comfort, your everything. And when this season ends, and it will end, you will look back and say, that was the season that changed everything. That was the season I finally learned to trust Him. That was the season I discovered who I really am. That was the season that prepared me for my purpose. So stay close to Him, stay surrendered, stay expectant. Your next season will make sense of everything in this one. If this message resonated with you, do me a favor, leave one word in the comments that describes your current season. Waiting, trusting, healing, shifting, believing, surrendering, growing, transforming. I'll be reading every single one. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's walking through isolation right now, share this video with them. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is remind someone they're not alone in feeling alone. I'll see you in the next video.